I don't know, I have to go back to this.
Yeah.
My favorite tip. Close it and start it again. It's such an.
We're live.
Oh, we're live. Okay, so we'll get going. The room mic is on, so we're all set to go. So thank you everyone for coming. This is the second GIS Day celebration that NRPC has put on. And I'm happy to welcome back many familiar faces. And welcome new ones, so welcome. We typically draw a variety of different folks from different agency and organization affiliations. That looks pretty similar in terms of relative makeup as last year. And want to just point out the growth in our neighbors GIS program down the street of Pennachuck. We had Jay last year. Now we had 3 folks from his program, so congratulations to them. So happy that everyone made it out. And let's get going. Just a few housekeeping items. If anyone's interested in connecting to our Wi-Fi, feel free to do so. Those are the credentials. We're going to be doing a demonstration of the Avenza app. So all the more reason if you want to connect to the Wi-Fi to get that onto your phone, especially if you're going on to the hike in the afternoon. In terms of evacuation, basically just go out the way you came in, down the hall, down one flight, and out the door by the cafe. There's a rendezvous point at the opposite side of the parking lot. You can follow, there's maps posted at each of the exit points of the suite. Did everybody put their raffle ticket in who wanted to enter the raffle? If not, Salem's in the lobby still. We have some very excellent GIS themed prizes. And so I just want to kick off today with an introduction of our special guest speaker, Professor Shane Bratt from UNH. He is a professor of biologic sciences and also the extension specialist in geospatial technologies. And as you can see from his many research interests, top of the list are remote sensing, GIS and GPS technologies, which are the best research interests to have. I'm going to let my team introduce themselves as they come up to speak. I'm Sarah Siskavich, the GIS and IT director here at NRPC, and your host. The agenda for today will be just a series of short 10 to 15-minute presentations with a break, 5 minutes of quick Q&A. So you don't need to hold your questions to the end. We'd like to address them as we go. And then we'll break after doing the raffle. There'll be an hour-long lunch on your own. We have some lunch spot recommendations for you. And then we're going to convene at Mine Falls Park, which is exit 6 near the Hannaford, and we'll give directions to that for anyone who wants to join us and see what it's like to navigate using the NRPC Trail Atlas and the Avenza app on a mobile device. So with that, I'd like to invite Shane up to talk about what available training resources there are in the state of New Hampshire. Shane is a real authority on this topic, so I'm really glad that he's here to talk about that for us.
Thank you. All right, so it was interesting thinking about what do you define as training resources in New Hampshire, right? Because so many resources are now available online. And I will say somebody just asked me this question. I've had this job since January 2006. So the amount of technology that's changed, the resources that's changed have been kind of shocking. But I want to talk just briefly about all of these different items. I normally would never put this much text on a slide in a presentation, but I thought it was important afterwards for people to have these actual URLs that they could follow up with on their own. And you can see from the color, I broke it into some different categories. Selfishly, I put our GIS training center up on top. My job at UNH Cooperative Extension is to try to help people of New Hampshire and beyond understand geospatial technologies and how they might be used and useful. What we used to do only was hands-on workshops in spaces like this. I used to teach in National Regional Planning Commission like 3 or 4 offices ago with laptops set up. We still do offer sort of those instructor-led trainings, usually they're about 3 hours long, sometimes they're a day long. And there are a lot of self-paced learning modules that are out there. I think, to me, one of the benefits of still having those, I'm going to sit here for 3 hours and focus on something, is that you actually sit for 3 hours and mostly focus on that thing. And you have interactions with other people in the class, which is a little different remotely than in person. But also you have an instructor there who can answer questions. And I think that that's really a key part of learning. There are lots of ideas we have about how you could do things self-paced, but so far, up until now, what we've done publicly are these standard workshops. Most of them are related to Esri technology. Just out of curiosity, how many people use Esri, if you know what that means, from GIS? Yes. How many people in this room use things that are not Esri for GIS? All right. So we have 2 half-raised hands and 1 like triumphant raise in the sky. My job is not to promote one specific company or product over another. I'm actually not even allowed officially to say this is the thing you should use. So I used to teach workshops on open source GIS. It was hard for me to keep up with all of it, but there are lots of potential ideas out there. I'm only one person, but one thing you should never hesitate to do is get in touch with me and ask questions or even suggest what you're interested in, because it is my job to try to figure out what people would like to know. I'll also say that Esri themselves has a ton of training materials now. And they used to be very proprietary. You had to take them through their registered instructor. They even want you to use their materials to teach. So we do use some of them because they keep them up to date. But this Esri Academy, there's lots of things there. Some of them, if you're going to take instructor hands-on, instructor-led workshops, they're very expensive, right? But that might be the type of thing that you need, especially with advanced topics. They also have workshops or materials that are just free for anybody to use. And some of them are included with the maintenance. So if you have, if you're paying for Esri software, you can use those training materials. So there's tons of stuff that they have that's available. Interestingly and kind of confusingly, there's also the Esri documentation, which offers hands-on how-tos as well. And one of the things I'm hoping to do in the next few months, or maybe by early next year, is to sort through those and categorize them and have my version of what I think is the most useful for people to follow, instead of dumping you into those big systems. But both of these have lots of hands-on how-to materials. In fact, in some of our workshops, we utilize some of the things that are here. I will say, at a recent conference, I found out about Tufts University has created a GIS tutorial explorer that anybody can use. Some of the resources they have are behind, logins, but a lot of them aren't. They were frustrated across the university of having all these professors developing these hands-on materials, knowing things that are out there from Esri, looking across other universities, that they created this web page that you can go, choose the type of technology, choose the topic, and it shows you the various tutorials and resources that exist for you to use them. And the woman who put that together, Caroline, I told her, I'm just going to point people to yours. You've done such a great job. And she said, please do let them know that it exists. So this is one if you're looking for self-learning. These two, I say my least favorite method of communication is email. I feel like it's the bane of my existence, but that is still a way that you can reach out to people and connect. And if you have questions, post them there. There's a bunch of different listservs, but the two I wanted to point out was one, the New Hampshire GIS listserv, not used very often, but it still exists. And this NEARC, which is the Northeast ARC User Group listserv, that covers a lot of New England plus some of New York. And you'll see people have questions that they want to know about, and they'll put them out there to the crowd of GIS people, and sometimes you get really good suggestions. If you are going to attend conferences, potentially, one of them in the region, probably the only one that's consistent, is the Northeast ARC Users Group. And that is once every 6 or 7 years in New Hampshire, but it's usually in New England. There's a fall conference, which is 2.5 days, usually Monday, Tuesday, and half day Wednesday. But there's also a spring conference, which is only 1 day long. And it's a lot of the GIS users in the region gathered together. Esri doesn't run them. It's the only user group in the entire country that is Esri users, that the conferences are not run by Esri, they're run by a nonprofit board. And those are great places to go and get information about what's the latest thing, actually talk to Esri staff and see other GIS users in the region. Now there's a giant, largest gathering of GIS users in the world every year out in San Diego. Not a cheap conference to go to, but very, very nice. I think that this year there were 17,000 people that attended, right? But a lot of this is also live streamed, and a lot of it's recorded and available afterwards. So if you go to this link, a lot of it's going to talk about the conference coming up in 2026. But then if you look for the proceedings, they have a bunch of videos that were recorded of presentations the previous year. And if you also want to attend live, a whole bunch of presentations are streamed when it's happening live. So yes, it's great to go there. Raise your hand if you've ever been. Yeah, it's like overwhelmingly awesome and kind of disturbing all at the same time, but incredibly useful. And you can't get the same experience remotely. I mean, you can stand there and look the dashboard programmers in the eyes, which I have, and talk to them directly is wonderful. You can't do that online. But there's a lot of information. There's a lot of presentations by Esri staff and other people that are available even if you don't attend. And I'm not going to dwell on this too much because I see presentations are coming up, but AI is the buzz, right? AI is going to solve everything. AI is giving me some really bad advice over time about things to do. But within the Esri universe, there's a couple of ways it's being used right now. One are these AI assistants, which I think you'll probably talk about. Yeah. So in various parts of the software, it's giving you the ability to look, and this isn't going out to ChatGPT or Gemini. This is something that Esri hosts that's designed to help you with that software. And I learned about this summer at the conference. This is Esri Support app, which if you are paying for Esri software, you can put it on your phone, and it has a chat bot in there. And I used it for the first time a few weeks ago to answer a question I couldn't figure out, and it helped, and it got the right solution. So that, and I asked them, how does that work? Because I saw it's GPT-4. What they're doing is they're running like ChatGPT on Esri servers, not the general ChatGPT. And it's been trained on all of their support documentation. So it's not the random stuff that people find online, which could be useful and also could lead you astray, but it's all of their support things. So these are also very good options that I know you'll hear more about, but this was brand new for me that this even existed, and it solved a giant problem that I had just a couple of weeks ago, made me look like I really knew what I was talking about. But I think one of the things that it's better at is maybe guessing how the thing you want to know is related to the text that you put in, which I think sometimes in a normal search, how many times you have to search to get the right combination of questions in order to get the result you want. This put it to what we want. So this is a very big overview whirlwind. If I had an hour, we would go to each of those websites and look at them more carefully, but I wanted to at least paint this picture and say that this is probably not all of what's available. This is just sort of on what I know of, and also the things that I wanted to bring up in those various categories. And I wanted to see if there are any questions anybody had.
What trainings do you have coming up soon?
Yeah, so the workshops that we're offering currently, we have 3-hour workshops. One is GIS 101, which is supposed to be the most basic one that we have, because often people don't even know where to start or what technology they want to use. We have a 3-hour workshop on ArcGIS Online, story maps, dashboards. We also have a 1-day workshop on ArcGIS Pro, and a brand new revived from the dead workshop, 3 hours on geodatabases. Just called Making Geodatabases Work for You. It's supposed to be getting your head around what is a geodatabase, why should I care about it, and how do I get started, which we did years ago, stopped doing because nobody would take it, and just started rolling it out with new information because it's the thing I think it's hard for people to get their head around, especially as people are now finally being forced to abandon ArcMap and go to ArcGIS Pro. geodatabases are more on their minds. And by the way, the geodatabase is the native file format for ArcMap. So ever since ArcMap came out, Esri's been trying to get people to use geodatabases. If you know what that means, great. If you kind of know what that means, you want to learn more, it's a wonderful workshop. And if you don't know what it means yet, at some point, you're going to confront them. But don't worry about it right now if you don't know what a geodatabase is. The other thing I would say, I already said, is feel free to get in touch because a lot of those are based on the needs that I see, but it's hard for me and anybody in Extension. Our job is to understand the needs of the state. Imagine if your job was to support anybody in the state who might be able or want to use geospatial technologies for any part of their life. Kind of disturbingly complicated, right? And I can't do everything, but we're always interested in knowing what people would like to see. And I'm hoping to start the idea of having roundtables remotely or open office hours or a variety of things, like, again, creating some sort of curated way for people to learn about other training resources that exist. So I'm open to a lot of different ideas that people might have.
Hi, Jerry Jaworski, Brookline Conservation Commission. I license ArcGIS for personal use.
Yeah.
And it's $100 a year, which it doesn't stick in the craw of my fellow Conservation Commission members. But people may not know that this is not the complete ArcGIS Pro set of functions, but the core ones that we use is available for $100 a year. You don't get support. You used to get support, but you don't anymore. So I'm wondering whether the AI assistant or I know when I log into the Esri support app, all I get offered is installation assessments.
It's a good question.
So
yeah, it usually does. I'm glad you brought that up. It comes up a lot of times about the software costs, and since heck, I don't work for Esri, like I don't get too much into the details, but one of the things I always point out is if you want something for personal use, however that's defined, like you can get a relatively full license, not everything, for $100 a year. If you work for a nonprofit, it's the same situation, that it's $100 a year for one license. And if you're K through 12 schools, formal or informal, anywhere in the world, you can get it for free, the full license of the software. So I'm glad that you pointed that out.
And I do want to comment. So I'm a Penachuk, we're a full Esri shop. But I also say if all you're doing is making maps, if you're not trying to make connected apps or web publishing, look into QGIS. It's a free open source software. It's quite powerful. You can make a lot of really good maps. Like the documentation, since they don't have a big corporation behind it, the documentation is not quite as extensive and thorough, but it is out there and there's a good user community. It's definitely worth a look. You just need to.
About QGIS. It's really powerful tool with you're using Esri's file geodatabase, and it's free.
Can the remote people hear?
We have
a comment in the audience?
yes.
They can?
Yeah, there's no comment.
Okay, all right, I was going to repeat that. Yeah, so QGIS is one of the ones, and I won't say QGIS, I'm sorry. I still say QGIS, so thumbs up for that. It is one of the open source software platforms that I recommended. I'm a Mac user. I don't even have ArcGIS Pro installed on my computer. I have a Windows laptop that sits next to me that I use once in a while, where QGIS runs on a variety of platforms. It's free and it's open. Right? So there are some people that care that it's open, and there are some people that care that it costs nothing. So it's free. The other thing I would say is that the mapping I've done in the past 5 years, which I finally got to make maps. I used to just tell people they should make maps and help them, but I finally started making maps. The average amount of time that I use desktop GIS software a month, I would guess, is about 6 minutes. I never, almost ever use ArcGIS Pro or QGIS or any desktop software. Pretty much everything I do is using ArcGIS Online. And that would be included in the $100 a year. But you can also get a free public account for ArcGIS Online. And are there limitations? yeah, but you can do a whole bunch with that free public account. So I always suggest if people want to start doing any GIS and they have some basic data needs, like that's not a bad place to start. Get that public account, try it out, and it might be enough, but also even knowing what it doesn't do or QGIS might do or what some other software might do, you have to get started doing something somewhere. And you can sign up for that account in like a minute. And I remember 15 years ago, maybe, or 10 years ago, people really questioning, would that account stay free? Would it stay public? And it's been. And I remember there was like little inklings that they might change that. And I remember that like the blowback against that was huge. So that's another option. It's still in the Esri universe, which if you're trying to look for more open source options, that's not one, but it is free. You can get a public account and it can do a lot of GIS stuff. So it could even be you're using QGIS to do more heavy lifting, and then that account could allow you to make web apps. Sometimes you need to do a combination of tools to get by.
I'm also a Mac user,
Yeah.
and I run ArcGIS Pro on my Mac
Yeah.
under Parallels.
Yeah, I did have mine set up like that before. Yeah. The question, yeah. So you can run software and virtualization on the Mac. Yeah, I did. And then when I got my new computer, I'm like, do I use it enough to bother to set that up? But it is nice to be able to run all of the things simultaneously. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, definitely don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'll be here for the rest of the time, but also in the future, feel free to get in touch because my job is to understand what people could use and then try to provide that back up.
Thank you, Shane. And Shane, I hope you don't mind, I did include your contact
Oh, no, that was
information
good.
in a
Yeah.
slide later on in the deck, so people will know how to get in touch with Shane. So
Okay.
appreciate your comments. Thank you. I'm gonna point out, we're gonna just keep going. So if anyone needs a break, feel free just to stand and go and do what you need to do. The restrooms are down the hall. Men's room is straight where you came in. The ladies' room is to the left and there's like an L-shaped hallway. And yep, take it away, Tyrell.
Okay, I'll take it away. Hi, I'm Tyrell Borowitz. I'm a GIS analyst here at NRPC. Been here for 4 years now. Great. So my presentation, just a little disclaimer. I'm still fairly new to a lot of these tools. I'm not an AI developer or investor, and it's new technology. So, take it with a grain of salt because it might, like Shane said, it might steer you the wrong way, but I'm going to be talking about AI, big surprise. Is AI stealing my GIS job? That's the name of my little talk. These are two maps that me and another coworker here asked AI to make for us, just either through our work processes or she was going to the New York Marathon. She asked it to make a little map for her, telling her, directions and stuff to get to the marathon. If you look closely, you can see maybe there are a couple inaccuracies on both of those maps. They're actually both wildly inaccurate and weird and problematic. So to start off, I have a couple of questions. I did this last year. These are just little Slido questions. So if you want to either scan the QR code or not, it'll start showing answers once people start answering. But basically this first question is, are you using any AI tools to do GIS? And if you are, what are you using them for? What are they? I think this will pop up.
It says
answers.
no active polls.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, good. Because we'll just skip the question. I'll just ask, is anyone using actively AI tools to do GIS stuff? Jay? A little bit? Andrew, yeah?
Yep.
Cool. Are you using them? What are you using? What are you using them for?
I'm right now, I'm still figuring out what the good use cases are. I mean, I'm excited for some of the stuff that Esri has built in because they've been pretty thoughtful about how they do it instead of just having AI to have an AI.
Yeah.
But more generally, kind of sometimes I might get a few suggestions on coding for Arcade or Python scripts, but then I tend to have to rework those heavily at least.
Yeah, that's, I relate to that,
Yeah.
certainly, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to find a good use case for it. You know, it's like, it's supposed to be this really nice tool, what can it actually do? I've been trying to figure that out myself. Yes,
So, ArcMap and the earlier versions of Pro use Python 2, and the new versions Pro use Python 3. So I have used the ChatGPT. Can you translate this from Python 2 to Python 3? So it did. It might have to tweak a little bit, some smaller mistakes, but it generated well.
yeah, well, and it's a language model, so it understands language coding, that's the language too, so it does pretty well with that. Trying to get it to do data work is a little trickier sometimes, I'll get into that. Why is that covered up? All right, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the beta Esri AI tools that they've released. And I've been able to use these, because I took this webinar that they did, and they've allowed you to apply to be a beta tester of their AI tools. Sarah okayed that, so I decided to experiment a little bit with some of this stuff. So the first one is Survey 123. They've got a little AI assistant built into that to help you create a survey product. And I was actually pretty impressed. And in less than 5 minutes, I built a decent little survey, or it built a decent little survey for me. So the prompt I used was make a survey to collect information about pedestrian safety in the town of Merrimack, ask questions about where, when, and why a pedestrian may not feel safe, provide a map for them to pinpoint locations that are unsafe. It's pretty general. It's pretty, simple, short. And here is the survey that it produced for me. All right, cool. So, and it did all of this. I could have gone in and changed the schema stuff, but it pretty much did everything here. There's a map where you can drop, a point on. It provides, at this location, when do you feel unsafe? What's the main reason you feel unsafe at this location? There's lots of different options. You can even, put other and, no, it's not letting you type in stuff, but here, there's a little text box where you can type in, what was going on. Have you reported anything to the authorities? So I think it did a pretty dang good job for just that one prompt and me not really touching anything, not really refining it. And it allows, it was pretty quick and easy. I could have gone in and refined it more. And the response with that little AI assistant was like, yeah, I can do that. Here you go. And it listed out all of the questions and what it would kind of put together. And then it gave me the option to generate that or to respond and say, no, do it differently. So that one I was a little impressed with. So another one is on ArcGIS Online, and it's an assistant to create arcade expressions in pop-ups. So if you're on ArcGIS Online, you got a map that you're making, you click on a feature, a little pop-up comes on and displays information, and you can create a little arcade script, which is another coding language, and it can look at the data and do all kinds of things for you. So I'm going to demonstrate that map. So here's, a map of the region, and this is just an example map that I put together. Nobody can find it. This is, hidden. It's not one of our published, things that NRPC wants you to visit right now. So here we've got our parcel data, and I asked the assistant to make a pop-up showing the address and the town and the ID number of that location, and built a little table showing the owners and a link to MapGeo, which is where we usually show off our parcel data. And I wanted to make sure that it would capture all of the related records for a parcel. So this is a whole, little condo neighborhood place. And so it's got all the residents there listed, and you can click on any of these and it sends you to that spot in MapGeo as well. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's not Mount Vernon.
No, this one's Merrimack. No, I had to click on.
So
Yeah.
you moved, okay.
Yes, this is 24 Stearns Lane. So I also used it to, these are traffic counting sites. And I use field maps to kind of keep track of which traffic count locations I've gone and collected at, which ones I need to process the data and send it to DOT. So I asked it to remind me, which locations, or put in a pop-up, which locations I have and have not completed. So this one has not been accepted by NHDOT yet, so that one's blank. This one needs to be completed, little skulls there. And this one here, this one has been completed. I got the nice little happy stars. And then, that's not the right spot. What are you doing? There we go. And then this is looking at our traffic count data as viewable on our traffic count viewer. And this is showing just a little narrative about when this count was conducted, the average daily traffic, the AM and the PM peaks, and it provides the link to our field reports that we do for our traffic counts. And then I also had it translate that into Spanish and Portuguese and even Korean, which is pretty cool. And it's also supposed to make a little table about, why isn't that working? I also asked it to make a little table showing when the, all the different times that we've counted at that. I know it was working earlier today. Now it's not up here. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you, my map. So how does it work? So you open up the arcade assistant and you just type in, plain text. And this was the one for giving me the status update, if the task is or is not completed. If it's accepted, write an encouraging note. If it's not accepted, sternly remind me that this needs to be completed, and I can tell it what font and what size, and I can tell it to put skulls there that are angry and glaring at me. And it did that. And I thought that was pretty nice, pretty easy. This is the prompt that I use to have it write that little narrative about the traffic counts. In this one, it's Korean, and you can see, it's put in Korean in the arcade script, and that's pretty cool. I couldn't do that. So I thought, that was a pretty neat way to show that off. Yeah, correct.
Quick question. How do you know it translated correctly?
That's a great question.
Because the reason being is I tried doing something like this similar to regarding dumping into storm drains. To a certain language saying, no dumping in the drain, don't dump your grease in the drain. And then when I convert it back, it says something totally different.
Yeah.
So getting that accurate language back and forth is.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because obviously, or maybe not obviously, but I don't speak Korean. I can't read Korean, so I wouldn't know. We do have someone in our office who's taught Spanish and Portuguese, so she could go and check that translation for me. But yeah, that's part of the reason why you got to take this stuff with a grain of salt, is you got to double check it. You got to make sure that it's translating correctly. So yeah, very good. And yeah, I would want to check that before we put this on like a public facing published map. This is just for example purposes right here.
I guess just a question. Did you take that, throw it in and say, translate this back to English?
I did.
And see what it said? Did it match pretty well?
That would be cool. I should do that. Maybe, yeah, if there's time afterward, maybe we can test that out and see what shows up. So another one that I tested out was they've got a AI assistant in Arc Pro, and I wasn't very impressed with this one. Because it didn't have a whole lot of capabilities. It'll open up a tool for you. It won't actually perform an action for you. And slightly more complicated commands it doesn't understand. So I do RSMS projects, road surface management system projects for towns in the region. And so I have this layer of all these different line segments, which are road segments that I've assessed in the town of Pelham. I asked this tool to select all of the road segment features that have no defect as a value for alligator cracking severity and make a new layer for those features. And it pulled up this make feature layer, little tool right here. And it already had this filled out. I hit apply and it failed. And that's because the actual name for the attribute was alligator underscore crack underscore set. So it didn't put that in, it just put in my word, alligator cracking severity. So that's kind of an example of how like these AI tools, they'll try to do exactly what you say, but they don't know that things aren't named exactly right, or they won't clean data for you. So there's some things to look out for there. But there is a major, man, my formatting. So there's a major update that I heard about just this past Friday about how this updated AI assistant is going to be launched with the Arc Pro 3.6 launch on December 1st. That's what that says under this this little text box right here. So and I haven't tested this yet because it's not coming out till December 1st, but apparently can do all this stuff now. I've been working on it. It can help you with data management and setting map views and extents and changing the symbology and geoprocessing tools, help you with the layouts, geocoding and portal management and all that stuff. So we'll see how it does, but if they're willing to put it out with 3.6 launch, then maybe, you know, they have made a lot of progress with that. Yeah, hi.
Hi, my name is Jan. Just a quick question. How often did you have to refine your prompts?
I'm sorry?
How often did you have to refine your prompts? So
Oh,
what
yeah. Yeah,
So,
good
like,
question.
do you
Yeah,
have to-
how often I have to refine my prompts. And yeah, so for the one that I did for the traffic counting, like for this one, oh, there we go. The little table is showing up now. For this one, I did have to refine it a few times, especially in making this table. So now that it's showing up, I asked it to make this table showing all the different times we've counted, what month the average daily traffic for that count was, and then what the change in traffic was from the previous time that we counted. And that one took a little bit more work because I had to define, you know, how it was looking at the related records that are sitting in a table that are related to these point features and getting it to show that change in traffic table, because that's not a value built in. I asked it to calculate that change in traffic column there. So it's doing that on the fly. So that took a little massaging. So there was a bit of back and forth there. But really way less time and effort than it would have taken me to learn how to do that from scratch on my own. I've done a decent amount of stuff with Arcade in our GIS Online environments, but it was a fraction of the time. It was pretty nice. And yesterday when we were looking at this, there was an error that Ryan pointed out to me right here. It didn't say plus 45.1%. It said plus 5.1%. And that was a formatting error that I had to go in and check and figure out. It just was showing those two digits of number values there. So I had to go in and manually fix that. That's something that it kind of got wrong. So there is a bit of back and forth. It'll get you, 80% of the way there maybe, but you do need to correct it. And again, this is just like kind of a cursory experience of checking these things out. I haven't been using them for, months and months and months. This is just kind of my reactions to these. So there are some other AI tools that I'm a little familiar with and have been using here or that I'm aware of. One of them is one of our Litron, one of our traffic counter devices that we use are these Litron devices. They're a video-based system, and they use image detection to count and classify vehicle traffic. So that keeps us out of the roadways. And those have been very great, very nice to use. Started using them in 2023. So I'm happy with that. The next is ChatGPT. I've been using that a lot in the last year. And we got a business, license for that for me to use here. And it's been good, but it's been a learning process. I've learned that you need to be really specific with it and to take baby steps with it. Like I said, it's not going to clean your data for you. You got to double check its work. I've been trying to get it to help me with these RSMS projects to kind of forecast out, what it's gonna cost to do paving plans, to do road paving in, the next 5 or so years. And it can do the math. But if I ask it to keep track of all of those projects in a massive table and to update that table for me, it forgets things and it misplaces things. So I've found that I probably just need to do this as like an incremental thing. Do this set of numbers for me, and then I'll take those numbers, put it in my own workspace, and then I'll ask it to do another set of numbers and not ask it to try and manage a massive table for me, because it's gonna it's gonna forget things. It's gonna forget whole swaths of things.
For 5 minutes.
Okay, and then SAGE, so the SAGE program that kind of runs the RSMS projects and some other statewide projects, and Chris Dowd, he's the one who runs the program. He's hoping to integrate an AI assistant to help out with that kind of planning process. And then there's this organization in Civil, which is based in Massachusetts, and they do a lot of asset management and same kind of thing. They'll drive around a vehicle with these LiDAR sensors and cameras and other sensors, and they have taught their AI to identify all different road surface defects and assess the roads as we do, just visually, and then they even have an AI tool to help build out that forecasting plan. So it's really cool. I wish we could afford something like that, but it's not cheap at all. So there are some great companies doing a lot more sophisticated work because they have budgets for it. But we do what we can also. And then I'm always getting emails about new webinars of AI and GIS and this. And there's even one today at 2 p.m. that's hosted by NISJIC about empowering GIS leadership with AI assistance and transparent innovation. So there's all kinds of information and new webinars and new trainings and stuff out there. So don't let me be, the end all be all, but it's the big topic, it's the big buzzword. So I figured I'd dive into it. So to conclude, is AI stealing my GIS job? I don't think so. I asked it to make a map of the NRPC region, and it thought about it really hard for about 2 minutes. And it was interesting because I could see the thought process it was doing. It was like, oh, I could do that, but it'd be kind of inaccurate. I could point them to this. Oh, they're a GIS professional. They probably know how to do that. Well, I could do this, I could do that. So it was neat to kind of see it going back and forth, trying to decide what would be the best outcome to give me. But it ultimately said, I can't make that map for you. So I think I'm safe.
Ro, did you ask it directly? Are you trying to steal my job?
Didn't. I thought that'd be a little on the nose. Didn't want to get, put on a secret list that it's keeping.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, any other questions? Yeah.
So I work at Stratford Regional Planning Commission, and one of the reasons we largely don't use AI is we're concerned basically with the environmental impacts that the usage of some of these servers cause, especially paired with like a massive server like an Esri server. These things use so much water, so much power in order to sort of use these really complicated tools. And also like as far as ethics go, like we feel that like the human aspect of writing to all of our clients and stuff is very important. So what are your opinions around like the ethics of AI and using it in GIS specifically?
That's a really good point, a really good concern. Yeah, data centers are being built all over the country, and they're using a ton of water and electricity, and they're driving energy rates up for the people who live around them. I don't know, have any data centers been built in New Hampshire? Do we know that?
No, I don't know, but there was state legislation that basically allows that to happen.
Okay, well, then we should all be aware of that. Yeah, that's a great concern, and that's something that we haven't really had a conversation about here at NRPC that maybe we should. And I don't know, I don't think we're not widely using AI to do a whole bunch of stuff for us here. We're testing the waters with it and trying to be aware of what it should and shouldn't be used for. But yeah, that's a
Yeah, we
great.
don't have a policy. If you're in the process of formulating one, I'd be interested in talking to you guys about that. But it's coming up again and again. Just the other day, SurveyMonkey, for example, put out disclaimer language about how they're training their models with anonymized survey respondent data. So that's a tool that we've relied on pretty heavily, I think you as well. So you kind of have to grapple with it, you know, in many different contexts. So it's not an easy question to answer.
And
One more and then
yeah, I mean, I'd add that, like, yeah, the ethics is pretty thorny. So, but I think you can't also discard that it's potentially useful tool. So the key is, I think, just being thoughtful about how and where you use it instead of just using it just to use it. Like, make sure you have a good use case, something that's going to save a lot of time and resources. But you also have to the other thing to be aware of is security. Your security, don't be feeding it your data. That's probably my biggest holdup right now is I don't have a lot of the scripts I want to write. It's not going to work well unless I can point it at my data, and that's a big no-no. So yeah.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. My time is up.
It's gonna be a bit of a non-GIS interlude, but we're gonna see some maps along the way, and you better believe I'm gonna linger on them as long as possible. I'm Ryan, by the way, Senior GIS Planner. I have been here as of last week for 23 years. You'd think I would have known better to hold out one more week back then and start on Geography Awareness Week. Guess I was too naive, live and learn. The non-GIS, mostly non-GIS thing that we want to talk about today is because anytime we have a large group of people in this office lately, we want to introduce them to this relatively new initiative we have revolving around our public engagement process. We have a pretty long and varied history of trying to get the public involved, obviously in our roles as transportation planners, land use planners, municipal helpers, GIS experts. We put a lot of surveys out there that are for our purpose, and then kind of as part of some mandated public engagement processes across the region. We've done everything from simple Google and SurveyMonkey surveys over the years. Recently, we've tried out a couple kind of like public engagement software suites that had their ups and downs. But we landed on one that we think is going to stick and we like so far. We've been using it since March or April, and we just wanted to point out a few things about it, introduce it to you, and hopefully get you familiar with the site that we created with it and get you coming back over and over again to help us gather data and advance some projects forward. So the site is called Social Pinpoint. It is a company that bought a suite of software called MetroQuest that we used to use before this. We went to use MetroQuest for one of our recent projects and realized that it was in the process of being folded into Social Pinpoint. So we went through the training for this new Social Pinpoint app. And now we've built up a site for it. It's like MetroQuest before it. It's got a focus on transportation, but we are able to use it for any topic we want for a slightly additional cost. It's got a lot of interesting fun questions and survey types so that we're not just limited to the SurveyMonkey, PDF looking form. We've got some interactive map-based questions, for instance, and some ranking questions, and I'll show you a couple of those as we go. And then it also doubles as kind of a project page. So not only can we host the interactive survey engagement parts, but also post some information on projects, the timelines. We can add documents and little infographics and kind of keep people updated that way. So our plan to use it is we've already started with our regional plan. Cassie's running that project. We've put up some surveys. Some are closed, some are open. We'll show you those. We eventually have the goal of making it our main transportation public engagement site, which is really important. So any Matt runs that program, any public input that we run for plans for the state, we might point people to that website for those. And then any other basic surveys, we're trying to figure out a way to use Social Pinpoint for all of those, just to get people familiar with the site, get people coming back and staying engaged. So I'm going to jump out and show you a few things. So to start, this is what MetroQuest looked like. We used it primarily for a couple of uses. We did it for a master plan in Hudson, and we used it for our Spark economic development project, which kind of grew out of post-COVID funding. And we liked it. It asks these kind of interactive questions, gives you a few slides basically. So it's kind of no nonsense, but you can make it look nice with pictures. And it seemed to grab people based on kind of how the participation went. So there was this question type about, give people two ends of a spectrum of particular options and have them weigh in on how they feel kind of on a sliding scale. We have ranking questions. So we gave them a bunch of choices and you could pull your top 5 choices above the line. One other question type was just getting someone's reaction. So we asked them, how do you feel about seasonal dining during warm weather months? Are you a yes or no? And it's just a very simple thumbs up or thumbs down button. So those are the kind of questions that we liked about MetroQuest. They have been adopted as part of this social pinpoint app in a kind of a more user-friendly way. So our new public engagement page is called NRPC Engage. It's at engage.nationalrpc.org. And right now, this is the front page of that site. And we've got 2 different projects going on right now, but we can envision in the future that if we've got 5 or 6 things going on at once, these would all live here. Closed projects would live here, so we can go back and see the results. So I'm going to just walk you through a little bit about how we built this regional plan site. And you can kind of see it looks like a website. So it's not just the surveys, but it's really a project page and all in one place to send people to get information about this project. We have done some surveys that are closed in the past. And one example of that I like is this where should our transportation dollars go? So this is a tool that you can put up that lets people interactively budget out amongst projects that you give them. So in this scenario, we gave people $1 million and asked them to spend as much money as they wanted on each of these kind of areas of transportation improvements. So there was bike and ped, basically adding lanes to add capacity to roads, transit, safety, aesthetics and streetscapes, technology-based improvements on the roads, and then kind of the catch-all of let's fix what we have right now. So this would be a good example to show you the results of something like that. So on the back end of the website, we can look at the data. This is a table that shows how many people out of 49 took part in this exercise. So for instance, 41 of those 49 people gave some money to safety. That was the #1 choice. Of those people, 1 person just funded at the minimum, which was increments of $10,000. So that was $10,000. 40 people were in the middle somewhere, and 0 funded it the max. But you can see in these other categories, 1 person put all $1 million into bike and ped, 1 person put all $1 million into maintain existing facilities. So that's kind of the table of what people chose to do with that. This is the same data in the bar chart form, and then down here is the average out of the $1 million. This is the average spent on each topic. So pretty even with maintaining existing facilities, taking up about 1/3 of that $1 million. Bike and ped was next, and then the other 3 kind of in the same ballpark for 3rd place there. So that's kind of an example of a cool question that we asked as part of that survey. One question that we've got reopened right now that we would encourage, want you to participate in is this kind of open-ended comment-based activity. So you can either post just text and say, so the question is, what do you value in your community and the region? So we've got people that have chosen to just kind of do it in word form, but you also have the option to add a picture along with your narrative or even a video, which I don't think anyone's done yet. But we've opened that back up. The project goes through February, so we're just going to leave this open right now. So we'd really like more participation. It might give us some good narrative to talk about in the actual document. So for instance, if you happen to be on a hike this afternoon and think you like where you are and you want to take a picture and submit a little comment about it and you value that place in the region, this would be a great place to do it. To participate on this website, you have some choices. You can come here and not log in, not create an account, and take part in any of the questions that we have up there. Some of the surveys that we put up might ask you for demographic information, so you might be asked to put in where you live for that kind of thing. But you're not going to be logged in as on the site as a user to do that. But you have the option of doing that using the login and join button here in the upper right. And the advantage of that is you won't have to fill in that demographic every time. It'll fill it in for you. And you'll have the choice of joining certain pages and certain topics. So once you log in, you will be given a list of all the topics that we've kind of included so far. 13 of those are our towns, so you could click Hollis or Brookline or Nashua or transportation or the regional plan. And anytime that we upload something to or post something to the Engage page and we assign it one of those topics, you're going to get a notification that says there's been new activity. So it's a good way to get notified and come back and see, oh, there's a new, I joined, I subscribed to the regional plan feed basically, and they just posted a new survey. I'm going to go back and take that. So that's where we hope we kind of get the repeat engagement. Once people see this website, they'll know that this is the place to go to participate in a lot of the stuff we do. One other thing I want to show that we can post here. So this stuff on the right is kind of what I talked about before in terms of general project information, timeline, our project leaders and contacts. But hey, a map, let's check it out. So it gives you this option to post pictures, and we chose to use that as an infographic instead of just images. So this is where we kind of posted some census data, community data. For instance, this is a map of how people commute in and out and within our region. So 46,000 people live and work in the boundaries of our planning region. 54,000 come in from the outside and 64,000 live here but work outside the region. And here's kind of a list of the top places of the people that live here, where do we commute to? So a good opportunity to put some data up there. This is one on housing. Might as well zoom in on a map. Not made with AI. So hey, rent prices across the region. Really rosy picture, no pun intended. And also not rosy. So that's kind of the static way we've done maps. We haven't done an interactive map-based question yet. Just to show you a couple examples of what's possible. Here's the Kansas City Parks Master Plan. They're using social pinpoint. This is a closed activity, but you can see the potential here for, you get different categories of icons. So you can place something on the map. Is it a concern? Is it something you like? And then it's kind of a social Facebooky type thing where people can thumbs up it, comment on it, and you can start to see the trends. Obviously, like a lot of the things that we get shown from these kind of websites, it really makes a bigger impact in these bigger cities when we have hundreds and thousands of people participating. So we're hoping, obviously we can't aim for Boston or Kansas City. Here's a Boston example. And you can see, hey, at least our page looks like the one at the Boston MPO, so that's promising. But they've got a map question open right now of how to improve things across the Boston MPO region in various areas. But I mean, if we ever got this many icons on one of our maps, we'd probably know someone got hacked or something like that. But that's the dream, isn't it? Not to get hacked, but to have this kind of participation. So here's what that looks like. So someone has, it automatically fills in the address and then you put a comment in and stuff like that. So that's, we're looking for ways to use the map-based app for that. So look for that in the future. But so definitely go to engage.nationalpc.org. That QR code will take you to the regional plan part of the page right now, the sub-projects, so you can participate in that survey that's still open, but the main URL for our main Engage page is at the top there. Questions? Hi, Shane.
Hey, that whole system is built on that software then? Like
Yeah.
the web page, all that's awesome.
Yeah, yep.
Can you get the data out in a useful GIS way?
Yeah, so the backend results are pretty good for tables and PDFs and stuff, and then there's some exports for, we haven't tried it yet because we haven't done a map-based question, but they showed us in the training that you can download point and line-based and polygon-based survey data, whatever you set up as various GIS formats.
I wonder
It doesn't
about
aggregate from what I was told, like if you get a point and someone's thumbed up it 10 times, I was asking, will that show up as an attribute of 10 somewhere in a GIS column so that you can like size the dot or something? I don't think it does at the moment, so that's the only missing thing that I think would be helpful as soon as we get 10 people to agree on something.
Well, and if you figure that export, I'm curious what it does with the images.
Oh, from the
Like if people upload pictures.
Yep, don't know.
Cool. It's very neat.
Well,
It's cool. All right. Well, if anyone has a project that they think might, lend itself to this, definitely get in touch with Ryan.
yeah, we've done, in the same way that we've hosted surveys for people before, we can definitely talk about doing surveys for towns and the bus company and all that kind of stuff, so. Back to maps, bye.
My comments will be brief because I'm going to be revisiting the topic of open data, which is what I talked about last year at GIS Day. So just some brief updates. So basically the takeaway is that NRPC, in the goal to extend the reach of our GIS and make it as accessible as possible to our stakeholders in the region, we've stood up what we're calling our open data portal. It's based on Esri's open data platform. And this is a resource where you can get at our data, get at our most commonly requested general purpose data sets. And those are what's here on this list, including our parcel fabric, our town boundaries, which differ from the town boundaries that you might get at New Hampshire Granite, our conserved lands database, trails network, including parking locations, zoning districts, and as of this fall, we've added our road centerline network and our building footprints. So all of that data is available for the taking. As well as there's a tabular data set. It's an abbreviation of the assessing data that we host in our MapGeo website. All of the geospatial data we maintain on an ongoing basis, and then the portal is refreshed weekly. The assessing data is a little bit different because that originates outside of NRPC. We request that data from each of our 13 communities once a year. And so we're in the process of doing the November update at present. So when I say get at our data, there are two ways to get our data. You can visit the open data portal and you can download the data sets and get your own copy in a variety of formats, or you could link to the hosted copy of the data through a web service and not have to deal with a file. And the benefit of that is that you have the up-to-the-minute copy of the information without having to handle the data. So especially for folks who are Esri users, but not just Esri. The web services is an integration approach that can be used with a variety of software packages. The ones that I know in the region that are currently in place are not only ArcGIS Online and Pro and QGIS, not QGIS, it's QGIS, I just learned that, but also.
No.
Get with the program, Shane.
No, I will not.
Other examples of software that can ingest the data include Brightly Asset Essentials for DPW work, the landscape package, which targets land conservation, conservation commissions in particular, and also Cloud Permit, which is a building and community development permitting software. Both Amherst and Brookline are using Cloud Permit, and they're using our data. So I would like to just quickly pull this off, walk through how to get to the portal and what it looks like to download the data, and also just link to the hosted copy. And I'm left-handed, which is my excuse for why I can never do stuff in front of an audience. Can I close?
See, when you click on your new experience.
Okay, so this is just the National Regional Planning Commission's STAR website. At the top, the heading, if you go to GIS and mapping, open data is the fifth one down, and it brings you to the group page of content, our open data content. We have a regional hosted feature class with a bunch of sublayers, the ones that I mentioned. And then we have a number of hosted feature views, which are basically just selection sets. So we anticipate the majority of folks are not going to necessarily want to get the whole region's worth of data. You're working in a community, so you really only are interested in your community's data. So each of these are identical, except that the selection set is community specific. So I'll just go to Brookline, because there are a couple of folks here from Brookline, just for demonstration purposes. There's some high-level metadata here, and these tabs at the top. The data tab is the preview of the attributes. So the drop down here is all those sublayers that I can pick on. Buildings, and you can just preview what attribute information is going to be coming through. One of the things that I added based on some feedback was that the editor tracking fields, the creation date and the last edited date were actually pretty helpful for folks just to sort of get a sense of the change in the data. So that's in there. Some of these are blank. The data predates NRPC's adoption of editor tracking. So the sort descending here. You know, a lot of this is the effort of Emily, who maintains the majority of our database. So if a feature was created or if it was last edited, you get a date stamp.
Where does the structure data come from?
So like what fields are included and what isn't?
Where'd you get it? Is it LiDAR? Did you get it from Google or?
Yeah, so it depends on the data set we're talking about. For example, buildings has been a compilation of a variety of sources over the years. A lot of the data is actually hand digitized by us. We've also compiled flyover data from communities who might have done a flyover, like Nashua and Hudson, for example. Periodically, we'll go and do a flyover and gather planimetric data, and that's all public domain. So we take that and assimilate it into the data set. OpenStreetMap is another one where there's been a lot of development there, and that's again public domain. So the reference of the footprint does vary, you know, depending on the era in which it was created. The aerial imagery, you know, has, you know, its own characteristics and it's a reflection of that reference. So it's for buildings, for example, it's really for cartographic display. I wouldn't recommend our buildings for anything that's, you know, engineering or survey, you know, quality. It's really for cartographic display. So anyway, the visualization tab here is just kind of a preview of what the geography looks like, and the symbology that we published up. If you ingest it through a web service, you get the benefit of having that all pre-symbolized as well. So back to the overview, there's the data downloads area, and then there's this layers area. So I'll start with just going for the web services. So I've clicked on the town boundary, and just to get going, I can just open up a map viewer tab, and it will automatically pull that in. Then if I want to add additional layers, I can do so from the item's URL. It's just the web address. Back here, I gotta go back. And you can build up your map that way. And so these URLs that I'm talking about, just so that you know where they are, it's over here. You can copy them to the clipboard. This is the highest level. This is like the web service, which has its own address, and then there's the sublayers, which have their own individual addresses. So I did that town boundary already. Maybe I want to pull in the buildings. So no, not that. Downloads. Of course, buildings is our largest data set. There's over 100,000 features in it, so it's cranking. Let's say I want to add the blind buildings. Go to that, grab the URL. That, like, find my map. It's in there. And then you can add, if you're, you know, fancy, you can add custom parameters like filters and that sort of thing. JSON. And so now the buildings are in there. So those URLs are how you can integrate with those software packages that I talked about. And then as far as downloads, this kind of brings you into another Esri spot. So I say I want to download the copy of the buildings. So their interface, and it's going to ask like, okay, what format do you want? Do you want a shapefile? Do you want a geodatabase? I wouldn't recommend shapefile for our stuff only because it truncates the column names. So you don't get the benefit of the description of the field names. You can also have a filter. So depending on what you're interested in, perhaps, you know, you aren't interested in anything but buildings and maybe sheds and mobile homes, and things like pools and decks, maybe you don't care about. So you can add a filter there, and then it can be applied to your download. How do I back out of this? So you toggle on the filter and it reduces the feature count. And then just hit download in whatever format you want, and it comes through in state plain, which is the coordinate system that we use here. So something to keep in mind. So check it out, download our data. It's, you know, public domain, free for whatever use. You know, it's unrestricted. We just do ask that it would, you know, if you could credit an RPC GIS program, that would be nice. Any questions? Any data sets that, yes.
So like if interns looking or students looking for some data to do their project for school, is it okay to come to your site and download?
Yeah, absolutely. And we get those requests. Yeah. And historically, we've been like, okay, what do you want? What town? We'll extract it out of our on-prem database and put it on a site for you to download. And so we're trying to encourage folks to, you know, do it in a self-service kind of way. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
One quick question.
Yes.
A bit of a tangent, but it kind of ties back a little bit. I saw this presentation talking about using AI to look at building footprints and different things. And it was interesting that they said that things that it sometimes was confusing was pools that were covered with trampolines.
It would confuse covered pools with trampolines.
From this, like what it looked like
Interesting.
from an aerial view, if you're looking down on a covered pool versus a trampoline. So,
Yeah.
do you have any trampolines in your data set?
I do not. We filter out anything, a structure that's less than 10 by 10. So maybe.
I think it's also important to distinguish there's AI like large language models, and then there's AI like machine learning and small language models, and so they do kind of different things. So those the kind that you're talking about, they're more the small models or machine learning algorithms, and they can be really good, but they're again really sensitive to the training data, and I can see exactly mechanistically why they would confuse those with those things with buildings. Because it's just doing the best it can based on reflectance. It's harder for it to take into account the shape and that there's concrete surrounding it. But
We should definitely look into AI for our building stuff, though. That would really ease a lot of that work for sure. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Emily. I'm going to hop out and get the raffle going.
Yeah, so this is the last topic of the day. I'm just going to talk a little bit about our Trail Atlas and the Avenza app. So the Trail Atlas is a series of over 80 maps. They're very simplified, templated maps of the region's public trail systems. You all should have an example on your table of Mine Falls, which is where we're going today. They work for kiosks, as you can see over here. This is in Amherst, Pond Parish. They printed our maps out. You can print them on printer paper, printouts, or you can access them on Avenza. So why do we use Avenza? Avenza is a free app, it's ad-free. You do not need an account to use it. You download these PDFs on your phone through the store, and they live locally on there, and you can access them offline. So you could go out in the middle of the woods and it will still work for you. They are not interactive. They are just flat georeference PDFs, but there are some tools within the app that you can use to mark up. You'll see as we go through this. I will show you where to access some of these resources. So this is what Avenza, our Avenza storefront looks like. You can't access these on the computer. If you have an account, you can save them and they'll download on your phone later. But if you want to get, the actual PDF, we have a page on our site, which you can get to through here, which is already up. And here's a list of all the maps we have so far. There are more to come. You can click on any one of them. As you can see, there's no trail colors, but they're usable, they're geo-referenced. So yeah. So I'm just gonna explain a little bit about how the app works. If you want to follow along, you can. This QR code is also on the maps on the table, but if that doesn't work well for you, just leave it up here for a second or two. But you'll have a chance to use it out in the field. So if you need help, you can ask us then.
So who's going on the hike at one? Okay, awesome.
Yep, so
Great.
this is the map we're using, so.
Yeah, so if you want to grab the QR code right now, that would be,
Yeah. And like I said, we'll be there, we can help you. All that during then. So this should bring you to either the App Store or on the iPhone, like Android or iPhone. And it will prompt you to download the app if you don't have it downloaded already. And then it will bring you to the store page where you can download this map. And like I said, this will be stored locally on your phone.
I have a question.
Mhm.
If after you download the map, will it show you where you physically are on
Yes.
the map?
Yes.
Because that would be good.
Yep. So it's right into my little diagram to put together. So after you've downloaded it, it should bring you up to this page here. So this should look familiar. This is on an Android, so I don't think it's that much different on an iPhone. So you can open your map and you'll see the actual PDF. Up here, this is the button you'll want to click when you're out in the field for it to orient the map in your position. So as you walk along, there'll be a little blue cursor that will follow you on the map. There's some other tools that Avenza offers. They have all sorts of markup tools. So if you see something cool out there and you want to visit in the future, you can either use this or you can use that. I encourage you to check that out today, just to see what it's all about. And what about other maps? So you're gonna have the Mine Falls map downloaded on your phone. If you're looking for our other maps or maps other organizations have made, you can access the search by clicking down here, the Discover button. So there's two tabs, the library where everything you've downloaded is stored, and then Discover. You could either search Nashua Regional Planning Commission to access any one of those 80+ maps we've downloaded, or you could just look on the map and it will show you what's around in the area, what's nearby. Some other organizations in New Hampshire have uploaded some conservation commissions to the east. So free to use. There are some maps for sale. It's nationwide. I encourage you to really check it out and see what's available. Okay. So that's, yeah, so any questions? Like I said, you'll have a chance to ask more out. It's supposed to be, yes?
Can you put in Cape Cod and on Avenza and it will show if there are maps at Cape Cod?
Yeah, you should be able to if you go to that Discover tab. Go back a couple. You go here, Discover at the bottom, it'll bring you to the search. So you could either write Cape Cod, you can write anything, or you could go on the map and just move it and see, and it'll show you everything that's there. If you want, you could also make an account. They have like a pro account, but you don't need that. It's free, no ads. It's pretty accessible for everybody. So that's why we like it.
So the URL to the Trail Atlas, is that going to be a durable URL so that we could actually put it in a kiosk, not with your map?
The QR code? Yes. So every time we update, the QR code sticks with that map as long as I make a new version. So yes, it's stable. I've made a couple new versions for maps already, and so that will stick even if we make an update or we release a new version. So yep. Any other questions? So
No, it's interesting when you think about trail data, right? Because I've heard Avenza used for a ton of different things, and it
Yeah.
seems to be a platform that people like for a lot of reasons. But it's always, trail data is so like tricky, because where does it live? I would say all comprehensive. So have you compared this at all against other Trail Finder or any of the other 180,000 different ways you could get trail, right? So I'm just curious, if you're doing this, then you probably all grappled with those things. I'm curious to hear what you all have to say about that.
So the maps in here are built upon our data, which we've compiled from a variety of sources, whether we've GPS them or we've worked with conservation commissions or other sources. But we also have tried working with some other apps. Early last year, we messed around a little bit with All Trails. It's not as easy for us to get that data into there. You have to go through the whole process of updating OpenStreet data, and you don't really have control over what it shows you. We make these maps, we upload them up, people can download them from our site. It's just kind of one consistent geo-referenced PDF, but the nice thing is you can also use it on your phone and you have it there. So that's why we ended up.
Yeah, we had a project, like Emily mentioned, it was with Merrimack, where they were aware that there was a lot of adoption of All Trail in their community. They like the interface of All Trails, but they like our data. So the question was to us, can you put NRPC's data in All Trails so that people can use it on that platform? But like Emily said, it's indirect. You have to edit OpenStreetMap. They pick it up that way, and then they conflate it with other data sources. There's some AI elements as well. And so at the end of the day, it's almost unrecognizable that it's even coming from us. And so we couldn't stand behind that. And that's why, we have this is probably 25 years worth of data development culminating in this trail atlas. And it's through, Ryan's done a ton of this work, like individual meetings with the conservation commissions, the trail stewards, the folks who are maintaining the trails, developing those relationships and making sure that they know to let us know when things change, whether something's discontinued or new trails are built. So we feel pretty confident in these maps, but we are deliberate in that they are not very detailed, and that helps us keep them up to date. If there was a ton of trail documentation and permitted uses and points of interest, that just escalates the amount of data maintenance that we have to do. So I don't know if you mentioned as well, Avenda's been really great for us because there are areas of the region where cell coverage isn't really that strong. And you do need some connectivity, but you don't need a great cell phone connection to work offline.
All you need it for is just to download it. Once it's on your phone, it should work. As long as you have the GPS signal.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make. A lot of people don't get that you don't need cell phone data connection to get the location signal. People conflate those two things. Like, well, I have no cell phone coverage here. As long as your phone can see the sky enough to see this GPS satellites. And also, by the way, it can see the cell phone towers. So that's a coarser resolution version of location, but it works together with all of those things to determine your location. That doesn't have anything to do with your cellular data connection at that point. So we used to use iPads for training. We would buy the cellular iPads and we would never set up data plans for them. As long as the maps were downloaded onto them before they went out, they could still reference themselves on that. So I think sometimes people think, well, I have no cell connection, therefore the location won't work. Most of the time, it should still work. If you're a super dense forest canopy on a weird side of a building, might there be a situation where you don't have location, your little blue dot on the map? Maybe, but it doesn't necessarily track as long as you get the map onto your phone before you head out.
So we, as the agency for trails in New Hampshire, we don't use Avenza maps for anything that's going to be long term. So we print them out and we work with New Hampshire 911 to have them use it because it's very good for the offline data. And for you guys, because you're managing like public, trail systems that are in parks and like pretty self-contained, this isn't like Mine Falls Park isn't going to be rerouted every year. So it's a pretty good program for you guys to use and to allow the public to use it for free. Like this is I think you guys are doing a great job with this. For something like us, because we manage trails on private properties, that change at the whim of whoever owns the property. We would never do something like this because for us, we wouldn't be able to keep up with it. So we have a management tool that we use to like figure out where our trails are. And we have like years worth of work to get it to a point where even our management staff are comfortable with knowing that this is accurate data. And I like your open, data sources because I plan to use it at some point when I have time to make sure that my trails layer actually matches what your public layers are. And the web service is huge because like with our colleagues, we're sharing data with each other. And I'm like, I don't want to sit here and update this. You do it. So that way there just appears in my end. And then I do the same thing for them as I make edits. So I think you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, the maps that are in our trail atlas, for the most part, are locally managed properties, public properties that are under management by the Conservation Commission typically. There are a number of really impressive large properties in the NRPC region. For example, Monson Village, Panema Bog, even Andres in Brookline. We don't try to be an authority for those types of properties. We serve our communities, the 13 communities in our region. So we probably should put some referral links though, because there are some really nice gems in the region, like places to go hike. They're public. It's just, we don't really have involvement with those.
So, Brookline, there's Hobart, Pheasant, and Palm, Blacktail, et cetera. I think what the challenge that I see with people out on, say, the rail trail, asking directions, is what's the least cost way of getting them to use an app with a trail map. And so Avenza is nice because it's free and you don't have to have an account, right? Before I was suggesting using either field maps or trail forks. Field maps you don't have to have a license for or login for, but you still have to go through that search process to find the map. So that means you're going to have to do that at home before you go out. What just occurred to me about your maps for Brookline is there any problem with creating a huge PDF with all of the Brookline trail systems so that you only had to download one map in Avenza and it would automatically via GPS show where you were when you were actually on the trail. So you could use that one, download that one map, and it would work for all our trails.
Interesting idea. The one thing though is that these pages, they're essentially pages of an atlas. They're geo-referenced. So when you're in the app, if there's a neighboring page, you'll see it. It's sort of like a seamless presentation.
If you have them downloaded.
Right. If you have them downloaded. So that's one sort of like tiles of that state townwide map that you're talking about. So there's a little bit of that. We don't have template. Well, I mean, we do have on the wall, we have the regional version, but we also have town specific posters of that have some trail. I think the issue is getting the detail on that. That might be a tricky.
The issue is what?
Getting the amount of detail that you would need to then.
You can see on the Mine Falls map how the trail labels sometimes don't work because of how dense it is. So to make a map of an entire town, you have to make it very, very big. Unless your trails are not so dense.
Well, other organizations have put together like packs, so like if the maps are kind of next to each other, you can download like 6 at a time, but that's just not the way we have it set up right now, right? So.
Yeah, and Tyrell's right in that a big poster is not typically printable.
Yeah.
We design these maps so that they can be printed out on a town.
Yeah, I get
printer. All right, awesome. Well, I'm excited that we'll all get to sort of see this in action this afternoon. So I've asked Salem here
Here. Hi, I'm Salem. I'm the Administrative Communications Coordinator here at NRPC. And thank you so much to everyone who brought in donations for Share. Our box overfloweth. And so we have some prizes to give out. So please get out your raffle tickets if you are participating. The first prize is this GIS grab bag. Thank you, Vanna White. Yes, please show. It's got a smorgasbord of GIS stuff in there.
A lot of these are New York freebies.
I like to make small talk with vendors, just so you know how, you know me, that's, you know, going through things.
However, the classic How to Lie with Maps is also included. Classic.
And I'm looking for ticket number 411479.
Woo! Yay!
I'm get the stress ball.
I'm a yeah. Take a picture. I mean, just get.
Oh, pictures?
Yeah.
Oh, you need to do your pride. Great. All right. The next is the shirt.
All right. Now, see, I dug out my 20-year-old Esri vintage t-shirt. I'm so psyched to be able to wear it. So whoever wins this has to come back in 20 years. All right.
Yes.
All right. I'm looking for 411481.
Yay!
Do you really love GIS though?
I love it.
Yes, I believe you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And then the last one.
This is a brand new book out of the Esri Press, and it's gotten a lot of notoriety. I've seen people talking about this book, though. I'd be interested in a book review from whoever wins this.
Hey, looking for 411480. No, I pulled somebody else.
Jeez.
I wish this was $1 million prize.
411484.
Order.
All the lucky entities.
Yes.
Hold it.
Yeah, right? Great, thank you.
Yay! All right, congratulations. All right, so in conclusion, I invite you to visit the GIS area of the NRPC webpage, where you can get a variety of resources that we talked about today and others. I will send out these slides as well to everyone, so you'll expect that. Here's our contact information. Feel free, and we'd be happy to hear from anybody. Questions, comments, feedback, love it. And just a note as far as navigating to the hike at 1 o'clock. So basically, it's step 1: go to Hannaford at exit 6. You can punch in 175 Coliseum Ave, and you'll get to Hannaford. And then when you get to Hannaford, stay on Coliseum and go past Hannaford, and the road will dead end in the parking lot, and that's where we'll meet. This markup here, we're going to be doing a loop. Well, there's various loops, but the green trail essentially will go along the water and come back up. Ryan, you think it's about an hour?
I was thinking the longer one was an hour, so that might not be an hour.
Okay.
But
Yep.
to go all the way to the.
Yeah, the longer would be keep on going.
Yes.
Go around that way. So yeah, so depending on how people are feeling, we can start, this way and then do a second loop, see how it goes.
Lunch.
There, lunch. So Tyrell made this. We've got a lot of thoughts for food within walking distance. So I'll leave this up here. You're welcome to hang out here as well if you'd like. About 1 o'clock.